All right. So at this point in the series, we've gone through a lot of theory, looked at some examples. Now moving forward, let's go ahead and focus in a lot more on customizations and the way that they're done. And so with that being the case, one of the we've seen some of the things that you do with before activation. Let's move on to the next most common function, which is probably going to be like Klevu.ModifyRequest. As we've talked about earlier, the ModifyRequest is essentially a way to hook into what is going to be submitted as part of or following what the storefront API documentation explains. So if we take a look at what that is, and we look at some of, for example, the examples that we have in here, it shows us how we can do multiple queries, how we can do custom record types, how we can do fallback queries, how we can do hand-pick queries, and how we can do custom queries, multi-currency queries, and customer groups. Under configuration, we can see how we can specify the sort. We can specify pagination, we can specify fields, we can specify grouping results. We can also change the type of search as well as the search preferences. There's also things like advanced filtering that we can do. This is the, if we go look at what the code actually looks like, here's a record query. It's got an ID, the type of request. There's settings for the query itself. This one's called product search. There's the type of records, and we're basically saying we're looking for Klevu products. Then there's something called a group condition, which is essentially almost like a filter that's being applied. It's basically, it has this group operator that's got multiple values. This one is saying any of, so even though there's multiple conditions, as long as any of these is true, then the product, because that's what we're looking for, can be returned. And then there's all these conditions. So if the price that's value operator includes a value of 20 to 25, then that's true. If the group item ID is not this particular number, then that's true. If the size doesn't have small or large, then that's true. If the brand is, if the item has a brand, if it exists, then that's also true. And if there is no discount, so if there's no discount attribute, then that's also true. And then in this particular case, we're just looking for the term tree. So for this particular query, we're looking for the term of tree, and then we're limiting the results to only coming back with 2. So this is just an example of, some of the advanced filtering that can happen, as well as the regular filtering, which is called faceting. So you can retrieve facets and you can apply facets, and then it'll show you exactly what that looks like. So if we take a look at a request up here, we can see that, here's our record queries again. Then there's this object. The object has an ID of product search. The type of search is search. It's got these search preferences. It's got a query term. This time it's looking for the word short. We're limiting it to 0 products. The type of search is Klevu products. And this time we're only retrieving the ID and the name fields, right? So as far as the products that do correspond to this, because that's what we're looking for products. If we do find any products for term, only give me back the ID and the name. Don't give me the price attribute. Don't give me the SKU. Don't give me the categories that it's in. Don't give me the image, the URL, none of that stuff. Then this filter section, it says filters to return. This is how you tell Klevu that you do want it to come back with filters. That is enabled to true. Now, specifically, you're saying, I only want to get the category, the brand, and the size. Then it says for the options of the filters that I want you to return, I need them to be in this particular order, in the order that they were indexed, or I believe it's the index represents the size. I'll check in a second, but that's what I vaguely remember that's what that means. And I only want 5 options to be returned per filter. So if the filter happens to have 6 options, only the top 5 are going to actually be returned. Now, if the filter only has 2 options, even though the limit is 5, you will get both of those filter options. Then you're also specifying that there is a range filter settings, and specifically, it's an array. So the first one is, hey, for the Klevu _price key, it is not a min-max, and I need the range interval to come back in increments of 50. Then there's another one that says, hey, for the key of custom range filter, whatever that is, then I do need that one to be treated as a min-max type of range. And just out of curiosity, because I was curious to find out, where is it? Range filter. I think it's under options. Yeah, here we go. So the order is, yeah, I was wrong. It was a value of frequency will sort the options based on the number of records each option has in the results set. So if you look at these filter options, these are based on frequency. So the machine tag has 229 matching products. It might not be on this one page because I'm only looking at 12 products at a time, but there were 450 products that were returned based on the search that I did. Out of those 450, 229 of them have the machine tag, 157 of them have the cotton tag, and then the number keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller because they are in the order of frequency. Then it says index will sort the options alphabetically. So essentially, if we were to change it from frequency to index, it would not return these particular options. It would return them in alphabetical order. So I want to take that as an example because this is a very common thing that we do in customizations. So I'm going to go ahead and go into our documentation. I'm going to go ahead and go back. Actually, I'm going to duplicate this tab just so I can keep it open. And in this tab, I do want to go into the template.js again. I want to go into ModifyRequest. I want to go look at an example. And essentially, I just want to steal this line. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and steal both of these lines. And if I come back to our demo, I go into the JavaScript. I paste that code in. I'm saying, hey, Klevu, I want to modify the request for all records. In this case, I'm actually going to say, nope, I just want it for landing and maybe for catnav because, again, category page and landing and the search result landing page share so much of the same events, same templates, same everything. Not exactly, but very, very, very close. And so essentially what I'm doing is I'm saying, hey, every time that either one of these is going to make a request, I need to modify that request. And then we pass in this very familiar function of data and scope. Then we're going to say, hey, Klevu each. These are things that I've already shown you. Klevu each one of the data request current record queries. We're going to call each one of them a query. Then we're going to do this Klevu helper set object path. We're going to modify that query. And specifically, we're going to set the filters to return, options limit, and we're going to set it to 20. Now, this might not exist. We've seen this in a previous video where these things might not exist for this query object, but that's the power of this helper. It will create the filters onto query if it doesn't exist. It will create filters to return onto filters if it doesn't exist. It will create options onto filters to return if it doesn't exist. And it will create limit onto options if that doesn't exist. And when it does all of those things, then it will set it to a value of 20. Now, in my case, that's not what I'm trying to do. What I want to do is I want to say filters, filters to return, options, and not the limit, but the order. And specifically, I want it to be a string of index. That's what I want it to be. Because obviously, right now, it's in frequency. That's the reason why it's based on the numbers of the results, not based on the alphabetical order of the names of the options. So if I just do this, essentially I'm hooking into every request that's being made for landing, and that's what I'm on. I'm on a search result landing page. Every request for landing, I'm hooking into it. Then I'm going through each one of the request current record queries, whatever that is. Again, when you're looking at your code in the customization, I just want you to understand what this looks like. It's okay to just copy paste a lot of the same code, or if you find an example in our how-to section that does something very similar to what you're looking for, just like I did just now, it's okay to just copy it, modify it. You don't have to understand all of it, but it should make some sense to you. And so now when I go ahead and change it and I hit save, if you notice, the options aren't ordered by the number anymore. Now they're ordered alphabetically, and not just for the one filter, for all the filters. Every one of them has their options set in alphabetical order. And that's the power of ModifyRequest, understanding how it ties into the storefront API and all the functionality that you can do here, and the power of being able to use ModifyRequest to modify the requests.